Glory to you, Lord Christ.
Jesus went on with his disciples to the villages of Caesarea Philippi, and on the way he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And they answered him, "John the Baptist, and others, Elijah, and still others, one of the prophets." He asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered him, "You are the Messiah." And he sternly ordered them not to tell anyone about him. Then he began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He said all of this quite openly. And Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and looking at his disciples, he rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." He called the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world and forfeit their life? Indeed, what can they give in return for their life? Those who are ashamed of me and of my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of them the Son of Man will also be ashamed when he comes in glory of his Father with the holy angels." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Please. So I don't know if you remember this. Some of you might remember this, but the Sunday after September 11th, churches were packed. It would be this Sunday. Packed. There were no seats. Like fire marshal having a conniption fit, packed. And then the Sunday after that, the second Sunday after September 11th, packed. No one could find a seat. People were standing in the aisles. I don't know if you remember it, but people were packed in our churches, in our synagogues, everywhere in houses of worship. And then the third Sunday, back to normal, as if nothing had happened. After September 11th, a neuroscientist named Sam Harris wrote a book. And he didn't necessarily write it against Christians or Muslims or Jews. He wrote it against religion, against God. And he shopped it around, and 12 publishers said, absolutely not. There's no way we could publish this. But the 13th said yes. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for 33 weeks. He wasn't the only one. Richard Dawkins wrote a book that same year, and the year after that, Christopher Hitchens wrote a book also. They called these guys the new atheists. They were rock stars. They were everywhere, college campuses, late-night TV. They were debating everywhere, and people would replay and replay and replay their conversations. They're actually where we get the nuns. Not the nuns that wear the habits, right? We have those in the Episcopal Church. I don't know if you know that, but we do. Not those nuns, but are you Catholic? No. Are you Protestant? No. Mormon? No. Jewish? No. Muslim? No. Are you Hindu, Buddhist? What are you? None of the above. Not because they don't pray, because nuns pray every day. 98% of nuns say they pray every day. But because they just don't care, and they just don't see the value in religion. But I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. We want to talk a little bit today about the theme of the readings, and I don't know if you heard, usually the collect kind of gives us like a summary of what we should be looking for, and today it was absolutely no help, I felt. But the theme I felt like for today was teach, the word teach, and Leanne used the word taught. And those words, teach, taught, educate, disciple, follow, all of those words are so important to the story of God in our lives, in humanity. And in fact, it's really the center of what God is always doing in our lives from the beginning. So teach is what we hear today in Isaiah. You give me the tongue of a teacher. And then we hear it in our gospel. Mark says Jesus calls them together and begins to teach. And then, of course, we hear from James where he's like, and I love James, right? Not everyone should be teachers. Because some of us are sinners. We make mistakes, and we're going to be held to a higher standard. So Jesus is teaching, and he's teaching today. He's walking between a little context. He's in Caesarea Philippi, you would call it the region of Philip. And he's walking to Jerusalem, and it's about 150 miles. I don't like driving 150 miles, and they are walking 150 miles. It's like 2 weeks of hard walking. And as they're walking, they run into, well, it's kind of hard not to miss, this humongous, gorgeous temple that Herod built for Julius Caesar, who's now dead but was deified, so he's a god in the Roman eyes, his son. So they're walking along, and you see this amazing temple, and it's spectacular and sparkling and gorgeous and huge. And Jesus, rightly so, sees this temple to a dead God's son and says, well, that's who they say he is. Well, I'm summarizing what I think Jesus is saying on his road. Well, that's who they think he is. Who do people say that I am? And they kind of run through all the top 5, right? John the Baptist. Matthew says it's Moses, Elijah, all the prophets. And Jesus says, great. Well, who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? As some of you know, we dropped our youngest daughter. I can start to say it now without crying. We dropped our youngest daughter off at college. And she's going to this little liberal arts college in Tennessee. And my husband went there also. And so this school is amazing. They invite us to everything because we have an alum and now we're parents. And so we've been to legacy coffees and we've been to alum breakfasts and we've been event after event after event. And on Friday, I was even included. They included EFM graduates. Who knew? Casting a wide net. And so I went to this all Sewanee, all hands-on-deck event in Washington, D.C. It was gorgeous. And I heard the vice chancellor, and I've heard the vice chancellor, he's new, and he's only been since beginning of 2020 also. And he was talking about the vision for Sewanee. Sewanee was started by a number of Episcopal dioceses in the South. And the idea was to educate Southern men to be leaders in the South. So he talks about, Ambassador Brigady talks about his vision for what he's doing. And he says, we are here to develop, because it's an ongoing process, we're here to develop people, thankfully women are now included, people of character, capacity, and commitment for the new South. And he talked about the beloved community and the great son of the South, Martin Luther King Jr. Now, Ambassador Brigady is black. He's the first black vice chancellor of Sewanee. And so he knows that he has a little bit of an uphill battle, but every time I'm with Ambassador Brigady, every time he was ambassador under Obama, he was an academician, he's done everything. He was a Navy captain. He graduated from the Naval Academy. Every question, who do you say Sewanee is? I never walk away from an encounter with him wondering, who is Sewanee? Sewanee is a place of character and commitment and capacity, every time. Friends, our time is running out. If you were here on the 29th, you heard me say these numbers, but I'm going to share them with you again just in case you missed it. So if you were sitting in a pew, one of these pews, right, one of these long pews, and you had 10 people sitting with you in 2019, 10 people. 1/3 of Christians are not going to church at all. 1/3. And of the 2/3 that are left, only 40% of Christians are coming back to church. That means when you were sitting with 10 people, now you're sitting with one on this side and one on that side. Our time is running out. Who do you say that I am? You are in the grocery store, you are in the schools, you are in your businesses, you are in your family households, you are in the world. Who do you say that Jesus is? Are you a person of commitment? Are you a person of character? Are you showing people? Or are you like what they talk about, James talks about? Are you somebody who turns the other cheek? Are you somebody who walks the extra mile? Are you somebody who gives your cloak to another? Are you Jesus' hands and feet in the world? Who do you say that I am? People are looking. This is a silly illustration, but it keeps coming up for me. So we went to our community pool right at the end of summer, and there was a lifeguard, and she must have been on her break. And she kept going, and I know you all know this, the look, right? Where you walk up on the diving board and you go 1, 2, 3, right? 1, 2, 3, and then you jump and then you do your dive. 1, 2, 3, and then she stopped and she pulled back. Then she walked back. 1, 2, 3. No, not this time. She pulled back. 1, 2, 3. Nope, pulled back again. 5 little boys have been diving and diving and diving and diving, and this girl in her uniform got in line, and every time she got up there, she balked. So do you know what happened after she finally did a very terrible dive? The first little boy got up, 1, 2, 3. No cannonball this time. No pencil dive this time. Because what he had seen, the person in the uniform, the person that he looked up to, had shown him a very bad way to behave. Friends, if you want to complain about the music, I'm going to say, get behind me, Satan. If you want to complain about what time we meet, I'm going to say, get behind me, Satan. That is the method we use to worship God, but not the mission. The mission never changes. Our why never changes. We worship the one who is worthy of ultimate worth because God has blessed us and given us the opportunity to do all of those things that James, to turn our faces in the psalm, to have the hair pulled out of our beard. We are called to be better. In this adulterous generation, we are called to stand up and to be the hands and feet of Jesus in the world. Friends, time is running out. Who do you say that I am? It's time for us. It's time for us to be the hands and feet of Jesus. It is time for us to invite our friends to be the hands and feet of Jesus. The number one reason people come to church is because somebody invited them. Not because they got a postcard in the mail, not because they saw an ad in the paper, not because they heard something on the radio. Let's be the hands and feet of Jesus. Let's show everyone how we are loving and welcome, that our mission has not changed. Our methods, maybe. When was the last time you saw a piano in the front? I've never seen a piano in the front. But that's okay, because that's the method, not the mission. I'm just going to finish with, he called the crowd with his disciples and said, if you want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross. Amen.
If you would, please stand as you are able.